Hello. I have not talked in a while. My throat had crud in it. I wanted to talk with you about how I've been doing and feeling. It's been a while since I feel like we've talked. Probably since I came here. I'm probably not going to be the greatest at this at first, but in order to do it, I need to pretend like I am. Now, Kyle, as you sit, you can scarcely understand the opportunity here. The lifestyle, the wonder, the joy that you feel living in such a wonderful city. But soon, Kyle, you will understand just exactly what you are missing. Sometimes the meat freezes over in the fridge and I have to thaw it. And of course, no meal would be complete without olive oil. Give that a generous pour. And also, balsamic vinegar. Ooh, hear that crunch. Plastics entering the environment. Got a nice little pop. And now, I get to sit in bed and eat this sandwich, chicken, avocado, mustard, and bread. The 5 ingredients that have sustained me thus far, with balsamic vinegar and olive oil. Good morning, Kyle. It's Friday. Ever since I came to Paris, there have been really large-scale protests and strikes about something, and I wanted to get to the bottom of what it was today and think a little bit about how France protests compared to how America protests. So basically the topic of the strike is the Macron government is thinking about raising the retirement age for workers from 62 years old to 64 years old. That doesn't seem like a very big difference, right? Well, it's a freaking massive difference to the people of France. The strikes have already encompassed 400,000 people in the city of Paris alone. The labor unions that were helping organize it say that they wanted to reach 1 million people striking and protesting, and they think they hit that number across the country, which is absolutely insane because France is like 1/6 the size of the US. So 1 million people here is like 6 million people in the US. It's crazy. The thing is, Kyle, I've been thinking about this in context of the George Floyd protests. During the George Floyd protests, people were very upset. There was a lot of clashes with police and that sort of thing. But there weren't strikes. And there are strikes here, Kyle. All across the country, 70% of primary school teachers have walked out of their jobs. And that's in addition to transportation workers, to healthcare workers, to essential service providers. It's a general strike, Kyle. It's insane. So why are people so upset about this? Well, the old people obviously are upset about this because they don't want to retire 2 years later, which is fair, absolutely fair. The young people are upset about this because if the old people retire 2 years later, that's 2 more years that they're staying in the workforce and young people can't get good jobs, which is also extremely fair. Even more fair when you consider consider that 25% of French people are already dead before they hit the retirement age, which is insane. What a crazy statistic. And most of those people are already the poorest French people. It's like the same problems that we have in America, except what's the difference? Here, when they get protesting and they get angry, they also strike and they hit the economy. And that makes the Macron government very, very scared. And in America, we aren't doing that. We aren't striking. And I think that this is one of the big reasons why French people tend to get what they want when they protest and Americans don't. So how does France do this, and can America do this? Here, whenever people don't want to work, they will simply leave work. In America, if you don't work, then you'll lose your health care, you'll lose your house, you'll lose everything. You'll die, you'll go destitute. But here, if you don't work, you still have health care, you still have affordable housing options, there's still options to get food. It's a much more communalistic society. And I think that because the community comes together better here and supports itself better here, there's less reason here for people to need to work. People obviously still do because they want nice things. Everyone wants nice things. But they don't need to survive here as much. They still do, but to a lesser extent. And I think that that means that when things do get really bad here, they can afford to go on general strike. They can afford to not work for a little while. And that means they can fight when the government does shitty stuff like trying to raise the retirement age by 2 years way, way more effectively. So Kyle, I want to talk about how I think it's really good that people have been striking here, but I also want to talk about how a lot of the people around me, the Americans around me, have felt about the strike. Other people here at the US Foundation, where I am, among a lot of the elites of America, have been talking about how annoying it is that the trains aren't running, how annoying it is that these services that they're looking for aren't being provided. Well, this is what a general strike does, and I think it's fantastic, Kyle, but a lot of the people around me, the Americans around me, see it as a nuisance. I think this is very indicative of how Americans think about striking in general. Americans don't think about striking as a good thing that wins rights. Americans think about striking as a bad thing that delays service. And I think that this is the key difference in the French mindset and the American mindset. So how can we get people thinking that striking isn't just something that makes your Lay's potato chips not come on time? Striking is something that improves your life in a very concrete way. How can we change that perception? We have to show people examples of what's happening in France, what's happening in other countries where they strike a lot, how much better the quality of life is here, why people have more opportunity here, why the medical care is more affordable, why the food is more affordable, why housing is more readily available. Basically all this to say, I think that there's a very sophisticated power structure in America. The reason that we don't have Medicare, the reason that we don't have access to cheap food or affordable housing, it's not because we can't afford these things on their own. It's because if the American people receive Medicare, if the American people receive food, if the American people receive housing, then they won't be as desperate. And if they're not as desperate, then they'll be able to strike more readily like they do here in France, which is wonderful. And it's fantastic. You know, it's slightly inconvenient for me personally because I have to walk instead of taking the tram, which would be nice. Or I have to walk to the second nearest grocery store instead of the nearest one because the nearest one is striking, which would be nice. But it's fine. It's totally worth it to have everyone in the whole country retire 2 years sooner. That means that older people are moving out of the workplace sooner so younger people can get better jobs and older people can actually enjoy their lives instead of working to death. How nice is that? It's so stupid that the French government is trying to do this. Even the Swedish government has told them. I was talking to Avril, this French person who I've been talking to as a part of class, and she was telling me that the French government got advice from the Swiss government who did something like this 2 years ago, and it worked out terribly. It's caused massive economic downturn for them, and they were urging Macron not to do this. They said, don't do this, and he's still considering it anyway, and the parliament's still considering it anyway. So anyway, those are just some reflections on the American power structures that keep the American people suppressed, how those power structures don't exist in France, and because there is a social safety net, it's more possible for people to strike. And honestly, Kyle, I think that if we take the first step, if we get Medicare, if we get affordable housing, if we just do that, all of the other social rights that they have in Europe will come dominoing afterwards. Because if we can just get a little bit less desperate, take the boot off our neck just a little bit, it'll be so much easier for us to fight, right? Anyway, just some thoughts. I really enjoyed making this for you. And I don't want to compel you, but I want to invite you. If you would like to, I will give you access to this channel so that you can make a response video to me sometime later this week. And maybe we can do a little Vlogbrothers type thing where we make videos back and forth. I think that'd be really fun. So Kyle, I love you. Wonderful talking to you. I hope to see you soon. I don't know when I will, but I hope to see you soon. Keep striking. Keep working for, you know, the betterment of social conditions. And till then.